Hey guys. This is part 8 of What If Naruto Have the Power to Heal and Destroy. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 33, Alternate Routes. A loud groan was heard in the room as a young, pink-haired woman angrily paced back and forth. Would you stop it already? You're giving me a headache with all the pacing. Her teammate complained from his seat at the table. What? Are you telling me that you're not angry? She questioned, glaring at the larger ninja. This is supposed to be our mission. The kunoichi complained. A sigh escaped the teammate. What are you talking about? It still is. Slamming both hands on the table, the pinkhead's glare intensified. Then why the hell are we being replaced? She asked. Kazuhana-sama knows what he is doing. A third voice now joined in. This one was far more serious and carried more weight in the room. We are at a disadvantage in this terrain, especially if Kanehigakure is getting involved. Kazuhana-sama realized this, and that's why he decided to hire them. Rogan Nadar stated before his eyes looked to the room across the hall. 3 other shinobi were in that room with the door flung wide open. The first one was tan and impossibly big and fat, wearing clothes that were far too small for his frame. He was happily sitting on the table gobbling up 5 people's worth of food. The second was bald and his body was as lean and pale as the first one's was fat and tan. He did not wear a shirt, but most of his chest and arms were covered in bandages. He stood leaning against the wall with a serious, almost angry, look on his face. The third was actually quite an unremarkable individual, with mid-length black hair tied in a ponytail, an angular nose, and an ever-present smile on his face. Yet he usually did the talking for their group, and always with a jovial disposition. Look at their headbands. Nadara instructed the 2 other Yuki shinobi. Note that X carved over their village insignia. I've only heard rumors about where these guys come from, but if half of them are true, it's a sign that Kazuhana-sama is pulling out all the stops to make sure his vision comes to fruition. The lilac-haired man commented. Another groan escaped Fubuki. I still don't like it, she complained, causing Mizora to sigh. You don't have to, Nadar replied while, in the other room, the third man looked back at the 3 snow ninja and waved amicably. You just have to be ready to act when our time finally comes, he stated. I swear that I didn't do anything to her, Naruto repeated for the umpteenth time, making a case for his defense to the 2 angry kunoichi that stood towering over him, glaring daggers. Well, you must have, Tenten stated. Because not only did she run away from you, but she was almost crushed by part of the movie sets, and then she fainted, the older girl pointed out. People don't faint because you didn't do anything to them, she stated accusingly. Naruto grumbled under his breath. After saving the demon country priestess from the falling rubble, the girl suddenly shoved him with surprising force and ran off yet again. The blonde was barely able to reach her in time to catch her before she hit the ground as she inexplicably fainted. With help of her attendant, Teruho, they carried Cheyenne back to her room at the hotel. As far as the spiky-haired boy knew, she still had not regained consciousness, which left Naruto at the mercy of the Konoha Kunoichi Inquisition. Now, the Leaf team was in the boys' room as Sakura and Tenten took turns grilling the Uzumaki, trying to get him to confess to something he never did, though perhaps could have wanted to. Did you try to scare her off with a jutsu? Sakura asked. Or did you try one of your old perverted jutsus on her? The blonde took offense at the last question. Hey! I haven't used one of those in a while, he exclaimed. Besides, she's the one that has something against me. Just ask Lee. He pointed at the spandex-wearing boy sitting cross-legged in one of the beds. Just today she kicked me in the shin because I wouldn't get her a soda and then pushed me after I saved her. That girl is crazy, Naruto shouted. From his seat, Lee simply nodded. It's true, Sakura-chan. From the very first day, Cheyenne-san has been very sour towards Naruto-kun. Even before he so much as said hi to her, the taijutsu user informed. See? Naruto exclaimed. I have been nothing but nice to the girl. Shut up, Lee, I have, the boy said, glaring at his teammate before he could interject. Meanwhile, she has been nothing but a bitch to me and tried to make my life a living hell since day one. In fact, I'm not completely convinced that she is not faking it just to get me in trouble. A short laugh escaped the pink-haired girl. Oh, please, Naruto. No one is that petty, she said offhandedly. Is that any different from someone pretending to have heat stroke so that Sasuke would escort her to the nurse's office? Naruto wondered out loud as he gave his teammate a knowing look. Blushing, Sakura struggled to find a retort. That has nothing to do with this, she exclaimed. Let's just forget about it. The kunoichi added as she looked away from all of her teammates. I would have carried you to the nurse's office like a princess, Sakura-chan. Lee chimed in, causing the pinkette to groan in exasperation. The blonde chuckled a bit before continuing. As I was saying, that priestess seems to have a bone to pick with me, and all throughout the day she had been acting even stranger than usual. I think the best course of action is that I trade assignments with one of you guys, the boy proposed. Immediately, Tenten's glare intensified. How can we be sure this isn't just a scheme of yours to try to be placed on Fujike's Yuki's team? The older girl questioned as she studied her spiky-haired teammate. Naruto scoffed. No, it isn't, he exclaimed indignantly. Not so sure, I believe you, Sakura commented as she folded her arms and gave the blonde a knowing look. Why would I come up with a plan in which I get my foot crushed and then I'm shoved on my ass? Naruto shot back. From his place, leaning against the wall in the corner of the room, Niji cleared his throat in order to gain his team's attention. At any case, this leaves us in a bit of a delicate situation, the Chunin said. And I kind of agree with Naruto on this one, the Hyuga revealed. Unbelievable! The two kunoichi exclaimed in unison. Niji cleared his throat again before resuming. I've decided that, before things get even more out of hand, we are going to have to switch assignments around and put someone else in the priestess protective detail, the team leader declared with a commanding voice. Thank Kami! Naruto exclaimed in approval from his seat, earning another glare from Sakura and Tenten. Niji sighed before continuing. Let's see if Cheyenne-sama responds better with another girl by her side. Sakura, you are going to take Naruto's place tomorrow, the Hyuga decided as he turned his gaze at the pink-haired girl. What? Me? Sakura blurted in surprise. Yash! Great decision, Niji! I knew you would be a wise team leader, Lee excitedly exclaimed before jumping onto his feet and turning to his crush. Don't worry, Sakura-chan. We are going to have lots of fun taking care of Cheyenne-san together, he said before striking his signature nice guy pose. Naruto could not help but chuckle at the sunken expression Sakura made at the sudden turn of events just as Tenten moved to comfort her fellow kunoichi, telling her that it would not be as bad and that she would eventually learn to drown out Lee's youthful speech. Leaning back in his chair, Naruto smiled smugly to himself. Despite all of its problems, the day was ending in a very positive note. He was finally free of Cheyenne's bitchiness, and he will be able to stay in close proximity to his idol, Fujike's Yuki. Sure, according to his teammates, she was not the most jovial person to be around, but, as far as the blonde thought, there was no way that the actress could be more unpleasant than Demon Country's priestess. Halfway through his first day in Fujike's Yuki's bodyguard team, and Naruto did not think she was as bad as Cheyenne, but she was certainly giving the younger girl a run for her money. While not as hateful towards the blonde genin as the Demon Country priestess, Yuki had her very own brand of spite. When Niji informed her and the production staff about the change in their team, the actress had made a face as if she had just smelled the foulest odor in the world, barely sparing Naruto a half-a-second glare before losing complete interest in anything to do with him or his teammates. As the day progressed, the spiky-haired genin saw his idol belittle, criticize, and insult everyone and anyone around her. From the filming crew, to the set attendants, to her fellow actors, no one was safe from Fujike's sharp tongue. Her assistant had been reduced to tears after Yuki went off on her from bringing her water in the wrong plastic cup, and one of the extras quit after she chewed his ear off from having an allergic reaction and sneezing during one of her scenes. The famous actress was nothing like Naruto pictured in his dreams, where the two of them took a bath in a giant ramen bowl. On the other hand, as far as Naruto could tell, Princess Fune's disdain seemed to be directed at everyone, which made it a refreshing change of pace from Cheyenne's special hatred of the spiky-haired boy in particular. At that thought, the Sharingan user directed his gaze at the other blonde across the movie set. Earlier that morning, the priestess had been in an angry and loud fury when she was informed that Sakura would be taking Naruto's place as her bodyguard. Since then, every time the Jinchuriki glanced at her direction, he found a pair of purple eyes glaring daggers at him. The Uzumaki sighed before thanking Kami that the Demon Country priestess' eyes could not kill like his did. What they say is true, huh? Never meet your idols, Niji commented as he walked towards the blonde, the Hyuga's white eyes looking at Princess Fune as she acted out her scene. Snapping out of his thoughts, the blonde turned to look at his team leader. What? Naruto asked. Oh yeah? Yuki is dream-shattering vile. But I was actually sighing over that, the spiky-haired boy said as he pointed at the other side of the movie set where Cheyenne sat still glaring at him. She has been doing that for hours now. Shino suddenly commented, seemingly entering the conversation out of nowhere. You seem to have left quite a strong impression on her, Naruto. The brunette added, that's what I'm worried about. Tenten chimed in as she walked towards the group of boys. Naruto glared at the kunoichi. Don't start with that again. I'm sure Sakura is going to go off on me about it tonight, and I don't need a sneak preview now. The young man stated. Whatever Tenten's response was going to be was drowned out by a loud sound from the set. What? Are you telling me that Daisuke won't be able to shoot today either? The movie's director exclaimed to one of his assistants. The nervous employee tried his best not to trip over his own words. Actually, the doctor said that Daisuke-san will not be fit to film for about a month, he finally said after much effort. What? The director screamed. We are already far behind schedule with Hiroshi's scenes as it is, he stated before starting to pace back and forth. Sure, we can use stunt doubles for some of out-of-focus stuff and we could shoot most of the rest later. But we need him to be physically in set with Princess Fune now for the kissing scene before we move on to the next location. The man said, why not use his stunt double for that scene too? The assistant offered. By now the scene had drawn the attention from the entire set. The director shook his head. It won't work, that scene is a close-up. It has to be Daisuke or at the very least his twin double. All of a sudden, the director stopped pacing and his eyes turned towards the group of ninja. Naruto and his teammates gave confused looks at one another as the director quickly walked towards them. You, young shinobi, you guys are able to take someone else's appearance, right? The director asked. Tenten cocked her head to the side. Yes, she answered hesitantly. Perfect, the director exclaimed. Then you will play Hiroshi in the kiss scene, the man declared as he grabbed Naruto by the shoulder and pulled him forward. What? Naruto blurted out in a mixture of shock, disbelief, and fear. What? Both Sakura and Cheyenne cried out loudly in unison from the other side of the set. Crack. Back on Konoha, Hyuga Hanabi found herself in a very unfamiliar situation. During a routine sparring match with her older sister, the younger Hyuga was taken by surprise when one of Hinata's strike came with so much force that it sent her flying out of the room and through the paper walls of the dojo, pushing all the fabrics and pieces of wood off her. The shocked Hanabi looked back inside the room she had been standing on a few seconds ago. The equally bewildered looks of her sister and father were the only response she received. After a couple of seconds, Hinata was the first one to snap back to reality. I am sorry, Hanabi-chan, the older girl exclaimed as she rushed to her sister's side. I don't know what came over me, she added as she helped younger girl up. It was like this rage suddenly well up inside of me. I don't know why, but I'm sorry for pushing you like that. The young kunoichi apologized over and over again. From his sitting position at edge of the room, the still stunned Hayashi decided to sweep the Hyuga compound for any trace of genjutsu. All the way in Suna, a cheerful Kankuro made his way from the kitchen to the dining room with a large tray in hand. All in all, it had been a good morning for the Sand Ninja so far. The lumber for his new puppet had finally arrived from Kumo. Baki had informed him that their Chunin promotion was in the works, and the boy could have sworn that he had actually seen Gaara smiling. Now, he was just a few seconds away from enjoying his favorite spicy curry for lunch. Opening the door to the dining hall, Kankuro was only mildly surprised to find his sister lazily reading a magazine at the end of the table. Smiling brightly, the puppet user prepared to ask her to join him for lunch. Why do I suddenly feel like punching something? Temari muttered to herself as she turned the page of the article she was reading. Without missing a beat, Kankuro turned around and started to walk back to the kitchen. After all, it was a great day to eat his lunch in the kitchen where he would be safe and sound. A soft hand caressed a pale cheek as tears streamed down her face. An explosion went off all around. We have to go. We have to leave now. Someone was heard shouting. The girl shook her head vigorously. He gave his life for us. For me, she whispered while continuing to stroke the cheek of the blue-haired young man lying in her arms. And I never, she said as she started to lower her head, her trembling lips seeking out the unmoving ones just a few inches away. Crash! A pile of boxes suddenly fell onto the floor, their contents spilling all over the set, and some of it even getting into the camera shot. Cut! The director screamed. For Kami's sake, not again! Fujike's Yuki exclaimed as she immediately stood up, unceremoniously dropping the boy, whose head had been lying on her lap, onto the ground. Down in the dirt, Naruto gave a large sigh as he checked his henge was still on. Thankfully it was, and he was not going to get chewed out for it again. After only a few hours pretending to be an actor, the blonde had a newfound appreciation for his job as a shinobi. Sure, he faced death on a regular basis, but fighting missing Nin was a far less grating occupation. Case in point, one little scene about kissing Princess Fune somehow already was on its 7th take. By now, everything that could go wrong probably had. From problems with the film, to issues with the lighting, to a poor distracted intern walking into the shot. The worst part was that, every time the director yelled cut, it was immediately followed by a full-blown rant from the princess herself, who would not stop until the cause of the issue ran away from the set in tears. Sitting up, Naruto took another deep breath as he waited. If the prospect of kissing Fujike's Yuki was not tense enough, all the retakes, which always happened right before the actual kiss, were leaving him a completely nervous wreck. Glancing to the side, the spiky-haired genin could see Niji, Tenten, and Shino looking back at him, their eyes showing about as much anxiety as he felt. Well, at least Niji's and Tenten's did, while Shino was anybody's guess. On the other hand, on the other side of the set, Sakura and Cheyenne continued to glare angrily at the transformed blonde, while a slightly scared Lee stood a safe distance away from the two girls. And I can promise you, by the time my agency is done with you, it would take a miracle for even your children to get jobs pulling out weeds at minimum wage. Yuki's rant caught the young genin's attention. Turning to the source, Naruto could see the beautiful actress in full rage mode, and the poor staff member was already reduced to a trembling mess. Sorry. 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 He kept repeating almost in a trance. Come on, Fujike-san, why don't you leave the poor guy alone? You already traumatize him. Naruto did not know what possessed him to involve himself with this matter, but the silence that enveloped the entire movie set immediately told him that he made a terrible mistake. Princess Fune slowly turned to glare at the leaf ninja and after a few seconds made a beeline to her new target. Just who do you think you are? She questioned as she stood over the boy. You're just some no-name kid. Just because you are a ninja you think you can tell me what to do? Naruto finally got up from his sitting position. In his transformed state, the Sharingan user stood at eye level with the actress. What's with the people in this mission and their entitlement issues? The young man wondered out loud. You're the one who blows a gasket every time someone makes a little mistake. I mean, you went off for 20 minutes when someone corrected you earlier today. Even though you were the one who messed up, he exclaimed. The fury in Yuki's eyes almost rivaled a Chunin's killer intent. Why, you little piece of shit? How dare you talk that way to me? She shouted, closing her fists to prevent her hands from shaking. Well, someone had to, Naruto responded. All this week you've been steamrolling everyone who so much as makes eye contact with you. Hell, I'm starting to doubt Daisuke-san is actually injured. I think he just wanted to get away from you. The comment immediately caused a myriad of response from the audience present, ranging from gasp of disbelief to barely suppressed chuckles. You. Now it was Yuki's turn at being stuck repeating the same word. So please, for the sake of your movie, my mission, and whatever remains of my original impression of Princess Fune, calm the hell down, Naruto declared loudly. The entire set went quiet after that, everyone waiting for Yuki's answer. Unexpectedly, without saying a word, the young woman simply ran away, pushing past the Uzumaki and making her way through the dumbfounded staff. Naruto was left in the middle of the set, with his teammates and the rest of the movie crew on a perimeter around him. Suddenly, someone in the crowd started clapping, and before long everyone seemed to have joined in. Undoing the henge and walking dumbly out of the little spotlight as people continued to cheer, Naruto was greeted by the confused look of his teammates. What the hell just happened? A noticeably confused Niji asked. I have no idea, Naruto honestly responded. A scoff escaped Tenten as she folded her arms. All I'm seeing is that this is the second girl that runs away from you in 2 days, Naruto, she commented, glaring at her younger teammate. I guess I might have gone a bit too far, the blonde admitted before letting out a heavy sigh. I guess I have to go look for her now, since no one else in here seems to be in any hurry to do so, he said before turning and walking in the direction the actress had ran off to. Back among the movie crew, the director quietly leaned towards his assistant. Was the camera running during all of that? He asked, receiving a shy nod in reply. Good. I don't know how yet, but I want to use it. It took Naruto several minutes to find Fujike's Yuki. Once again, the blonde was surprised with how quick a civilian could run since, Just like Cheyenne the day before, Yuki had managed to cover quite a large distance, getting herself deep into the woods in a considerable small amount of time. As the genin got closer, his ears picked up a distinct sound. Damn it! He swore under his breath once he realized that he was hearing Princess Fune's sobs. Hey, Fujike-san. Listen, I know I said a lot of things. The boy awkwardly started. But I honestly didn't want to upset you like this. Quickly, wiping her tears away, the actress turned her head to glare at the young man. I'm not upset because of you. Idiot. She spat. Naruto was taken aback by the respond. Oh. Well, you did run away after I confronted you. It's easy to see how someone could assume you're crying because of that. He commented. So then, if you're not upset because of me, can you come back and tell Tenten that? The Uzumaki added. A short, dry laugh escaped the black-haired beauty. Your little rant was simple, the latest drop in the stress-filled cup that is my life. She explained as she tried to compose herself. The blonde gave the actress a curious look. Really? Care to share? He offered. Another, far more condescending laugh from Yuki was heard. A little boy like you could not possibly understand. She countered. Naruto rolled his eyes. Sure, because I'm just a shinobi who has faced certain death a handful of times. He commented offhandedly. I wouldn't know anything about problems or stress. To her credit, Yuki did have the decency to look a bit ashamed and face away. Deciding to spare Princess Fune any more embarrassment, the spiky boy opted to continue. I'll tell you what. Let me tell you some of my issues first. He offered. For starters, just a couple of months ago, one of my teammates ran away from the village in a misguided attempt to save our team. One of Yuki's eyebrows rose. And how does that work? The blonde snorted in response. Did I say misguided? I meant stupid. He explained. Anyways, we were sent on a mission to drag his ass back, and by the end of it, both Niji and I had holes through our chest, but we did manage to bring him back. Yuki was noticeably taken back. That's quite a lot of dedication. She commented, clearly at a loss for words. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Well, he is my best friend. Also, about a year ago, I found out that he is one of my only 2 living relatives. He revealed. And the other one is an S-rank missing nin who is trying to kill us both. It took several seconds for the actress to find her voice. Okay. You might know a thing or two about stress. She finally admitted. Now is your turn. Naruto pointed out with a smirk on his face. Sighing, Yuki had no other choice but to give in. Have you ever had a part of yourself that you needed to hide from everyone else? At all times? She asked. Heh. You have no idea. Naruto replied with a laugh. A small smile appeared on the young woman's face at the answer, and Naruto could not help himself but think she looked absolutely stunning. Well, I have something like that too. The black-haired woman continued. Keeping it buried usually comes as second nature, but lately, it's on my mind at all times. Nagging me, eating away at the walls around my heart. Her breathing started to become a bit unstable, and her hands moved to clutch the pendant that hung around her neck. I usually have a much better grip on my composure, but lately. Well, you saw how I made poor Kaoru faint during one of my episodes. She said with a healthy amount of blush adorning her cheeks. So, you're not usually this strung-up crazy? The boy asked. Yuki gave the blonde a glare. Of course not. I'm a professional, she emphatically stated. A small smile appeared in the young shinobi's face. Good. I would hate it if my favorite actress in the whole world was that unpleasant, he commented, his words actually causing Yuki's blush to intensify. Come, let's go back. We still have a movie to film. Finally, regaining her composure, the young woman gave the spiky-haired boy a knowing look. Oh my, someone sure is in a hurry, she said as a mischievous glint appeared in her eyes. Could that person be looking forward to finally do the kissing scene? The actress asked as she approached the genin. Naruto audible gulped as he took a step back. By now, the smile on Yuki's face was absolutely predatory. Maybe I should give you a bit of service right here, she said. After all, you've been such a good little fan. You need to be rewarded. Her hand reached out for the blonde's cheek, teasingly stroking it. An exceedingly nervous Naruto tired to move away from the beautiful woman's touch, but found his retreat cut off by a tree. What was it you say your name was? Yuki asked as she continued to move up. Is it Naruto-chan? Her face was now dangerously close. What are you two doing? An angry voice suddenly demanded to know. In a flash, Fujike's Yuki backed away from her would-be prey. Finally, being able to breathe again, Naruto turned to look at his savior. Immediately, his gratitude disappeared at the sight of a furious Cheyenne glaring at him. "Cheyenne-san! Don't run away like that!" Sakura called out as she and Lee came running from the direction of the movie set. Naruto looked at his teammate and smirked. "Told you she was a handful," the young man smugly said, earning a glare from the pinkette for his troubles. The priestess stomped her way to the other blonde. "So what? You guys staged that whole little scene back there so that you could come out here for some secret rendezvous?" she asked, jabbing her index finger on the spiky-haired boy's chest all the while. The Uzumaki gave his previous charge an incredulous look. "What the hell are you talking about?" he asked with a mixture of confusion and aggravation. "Oh no, Naruto-chan, it seems we've been found out," Yuki suddenly said as she came up behind the blonde genin, hooking her arms underneath his and leaning her chin on his shoulder. Naruto noticeably jumped at the actress' action, while Cheyenne and Sakura eyes widened in complete shock and Lee turned beet red. What are you doing?" the spiky-haired boy asked in a panic, only receiving a sly smile from Yuki in response. "Nah. Ru. Too," Sakura said through gritted teeth and her hands closed into fists. Next to her, Cheyenne's purple eyes looked almost as terrifying as Itachi's Sharingan. Untangling himself from Princess Fune, Naruto struggled to explain himself. "She's lying," he hurriedly said. "I just came here to make sure she was alright and then she. The boy stopped talking when he saw the kunoichi's hand moving closer to her weapon's pouch. Fortunately for the Uzumaki, instead of going for a kunai, Sakura's hand went for his collar, bringing the spiky-haired boy closer to her. "Naruto, I swear, if you..." Whatever the Haruno's threat was, it was left unsaid when a huge explosion thundered through the forest, strong enough to cause the ground to shake. "What was that?" Lee immediately asked. All anxiety disappeared from Naruto. "I don't know. But it came from the movie set." Chapter 34, Leaf Typhoon. Fortunately for the Uzumaki, instead of going for a kunai, Sakura's hand went for his collar, bringing the spiky-haired boy closer to her. "Naruto, I swear, if you..." Whatever the Haruno's threat was, it was left unsaid when a huge explosion thundered through the forest, strong enough to cause the ground to shake. "What was that?" Lee immediately asked. All anxiety disappeared from Naruto. "I don't know. But it came from the movie set." Instantly, the three leaf ninjas moved to surround the two civilian girls, with Naruto and Sakura both drawing out a kunai. What's going on?" a worried Cheyenne asked as she looked at the direction of the set where a tower of smoke could be seen rising into the sky. The three shinobi did not even bother to answer the blonde girl. Instead, they continued to scan their surroundings. Naruto's Sharingan moved back and forth from side to side, as they searched for any signs of movement. "Let's start making our way back to the spiky-haired boy started to say before suddenly coming to a halt, and his head snapping to the side. Immediately, his teammates turned to face the direction he was looking at. A long figure among the trees walked calmly towards them. As it got closer, the genin could see it was a bald man with most of his lean body covered in bandages. Wrapped around his shoulder was a hidden rock headband with an X carved across the village's insignia. "Arg! There are 3 of them," the man complained in a rough voice as he stepped into the clearing. "Damn it! I told Genin to set it off sooner," he swore under his teeth. Naruto cautiously glanced back at his teammates. "You guys take the girls and step back. I'll distract him while you go around us," he said under his breath. After a couple of seconds of hesitation, the other 2 Konoha nins nodded in approval. "I don't suppose you kids want to step aside and let me take girl, do you?" the bandaged man asked half-heartedly, receiving a glare from the younger ninjas. "Arg! I'm not into the mood to entertain a bunch of brats," he complained before, in one quick and sudden movement, sending a pair of kunai flying at Leaf Genin. Naruto readied himself to block the projectiles with his own kunai when his Sharingan caught sight of the pieces of paper tied to the blades. "Explosive tags," he immediately called out before grabbing Yuki and jumping out of the way while the others followed suit with Lee grabbing Cheyenne. A second later, 2 sizable explosions went off where they had been standing. Once back on the ground, Yuki gave her protector a look full of fear and worry. "What's going on?" she asked. Instead of answering the young woman, the blonde boy looked up at his enemy just in time to see another set of kunai flying towards him. Not wanting to leave it to chance, the Uzumaki focused on the blades with his Sharingan. "Amaterasu," he whispered, and the kunai were instantly covered in black flames that detonated the tags at a safe distance. The rock nin was taken aback. "Oh. So you are Uzumaki Naruto," he said as he looked at the blonde boy and noticing his peculiar Sharingan. "Well, that changes things," he added with a noticeably more jovial tone as he cracked his knuckles. "Remember the plan?" Naruto said to his teammates before suddenly dashing towards the rock nin, his kunai still in hand. "What are you doing?" The Uzumaki could hear Cheyenne shout as Lee started to pull her away. The bald man grinned before doing a quick set of hand seals and slamming his palm on the ground. "Tikoku niwa no jutsu," he called out. Naruto barely had time to see that crimson-colored scriptures appeared on the man's bandages before the ground exploded underneath him. The boy was flung into the air, but managed to spin himself right side up and land safely. However, he immediately noticed there was something wrong. The large rocks thrown into the air by the explosion had not fallen back to the ground, and instead they stayed hovering in the air. The same marks on the rock ninja's bandages were glowing on them. Suddenly, the rocks shot towards the blonde, forcing the genin to jump away to evade them as they came crashing down all around him. The glowing rubble continued its barrage as Naruto danced his way through them. It did not matter whether the boulders crashed on the ground or the spiky-haired teen deflected them with his kunai or with a kick. The rocks would simply rise up again and resume their assault. Eventually, the boy got tired of the onslaught and jumping around. "Kakugen Kangoku no Jutsu," he shouted before 3 triangular granite walls rose in front of him, blocking the rocks. Suddenly, the ground right behind the leaf nin exploded and a large rock shot straight towards the blonde from the rear. Naruto turned around, but he could only watch as the boulder flew towards him. The Sharingan user was about to summon Susanoo, hoping that the avatar's ribcage could materialize fast enough to protect him, when suddenly the rock exploded and Lee landed right in front of him. "You need to be more mindful of your surroundings, Naruto-kun," Lee said amicably, "and you were supposed to stay with the girls." The spiky-haired boy shot back. "Sakura and I were worried about you. This man knows who you are, so we thought it would be best not to leave you with him," the taijutsu user explained, giving the younger nin a smile and thumbs up. Sighing in defeat, Naruto simply turned to face their opponent. The rock nin smirked as his army of floating boulders arranged itself around him. "I guess 2 of you should put up more of a challenge," he stated. "I am Itagariki, formerly of Iwagakure. Try not to disappoint me," the man said before thrusting one of his arms forward. Immediately, the group of rocks shot towards the 2 genin. Niji struggled to breathe among the dust and smoke as he continued to help the movie crew out of the wreckage caused by the sudden explosion. In his peripheral vision, the Hyuga could see Tenten providing first aid to some of the injured and Shino directing his bug to break down some of the larger pieces of rubble. "This is just like the set of Bloody and the Nuke Nin all over again," the movie's director was complaining as members of the staff pulled him out from underneath a pile of lumber and steel pipes. Despite some bruises and cuts, the man had fared miraculously well and was virtually unharmed. The black-haired boy gave a weary sigh and went back to his rescue efforts as his mind went over what had happened. It had not been a single explosion, but several charges had gone off in succession throughout the set with devastating effect. What bothered the Chunin the most is that he had scanned the surroundings that very same morning and he had not seen anything, either bombs buried nor signs of dirt having been displaced, meaning whoever set the explosive did it throughout the day and right under their noses without him, or any of his teammates, realizing it. Everything led to one conclusion: they were dealing with an enemy shinobi. Niji cursed himself. He was supposed to be the leader on this mission, yet he had gotten complacent, and had failed to prevent this catastrophe. Sure, Naruto suddenly getting drafted into the movie had not helped the Hyuga's focus, but, at the end of the day, he should not have let his guard down the way he did. After a couple more minutes of clearing rubble, Shino walked up Niji. "I have taken care of all the large pieces," the Aburaim informed in his monotone. Nodding at the information, the older boy activated his Byakugan to make sure no one else from the film crew was trapped underneath it. Once he was satisfied with his findings, the Chunin turned to his teammates. "I'm going to go check on Lee and the others," he stated. "You guys stay here and make sure that everyone is." Niji suddenly halted as his dojutsu caught something coming down from above them. Suddenly, a large mass came crashing down onto the middle of the destroyed movie set with enough force to make the ground shake. The shockwave caused by the impact pushed back most of the dust and smoke left behind by the explosions, thus leaving the newcomer in full view of all those present. It was a man several heads taller than a regular person and revoltingly fat. He had tan skin and wore cloths that were obviously way too small for his impossibly large frame. Niji immediately noticed 2 things about the stranger. There was a hidden mist headband with an X carved over the insignia wrapped around the man's thick wrist, and there was a malicious grin on his face. "Oh my! It seems many roaches managed to survive my little goodies," the man commented with a gleeful tone as he surveyed the destroyed movie set with a hungry look in his eyes. Glaring at the stranger, the Hyuga prepared his fighting stance. "Shino, get everyone out here. Use your bugs to help those that can't move by themselves," he ordered with authority in his voice, and the younger boy immediately followed. "Ten, you'll be my support," Niji added, and through his Baiwakugan he could see his teammate reading her scrolls. The man's grin almost looked crazed as he set his eyes on the leaf Chunin. "Are you going to play with me, little boy?" he asked. Instead of answering, Niji simply lowered his stance, extended his arms, and sent chakra to the tip of his fingers. The next second, the Hyuga shot towards his opponent at blinding speed. Kaige Bunshin no Jutsu. A dozen copies of Naruto appeared from a cloud of smoke and launched themselves against the floating rocks, smashing them left and right. Gariki directed the boulders by moving his hands. The rocks encircled the clones and smashed themselves against them, dispelling the copies in another cloud of smoke. However, the IWA ninja's victory was short-lived as a green blur shot through the cloud. Lee appeared before the older man with one of his legs raised over his head. "Konoha Otoshi!" the taijutsu user exclaimed as he lowered his legs with tremendous force. The rock nin was forced to quickly direct his floating rocks to place themselves between him and the leaf genin. However, the young man's kick was so strong that it simply cut through the wall of stone like it was a knife through butter, forcing Gariki to jump back to avoid damage to himself. Watching the bandaged man forced on the defensive, the real Naruto smiled to himself as he approached from behind and his hands went through a set of seals. "Gakakyu no Jutsu!" he exclaimed before breathing out a large fireball towards his opponent's back. Looking back, Gariki saw the blazing inferno about to consume him. Gritting his teeth in frustration, the man brought his hands up in a defensive stance. "Tikoku niwa, Byusu!" the IWA shinobi shouted right before the fireball connected and he was swallowed by a giant explosion. Naruto stood back from the cloud of smoke and waited for the results of their attack when suddenly a large fist made out of rock shot through the dust towards him. Immediately, the blonde summoned Susanoo. A giant skeletal fist collided with its stone counterpart, and a powerful shock wave swept through the clearing from the impact, carrying all the dust away. Lee landed next to Naruto as the younger boy's chakra avatar faded away and the two genin looked at their enemy. Gariki stood there completely unharmed. The older ninja's arms were now fully covered by rocks that formed a giant set of limbs with the same red markings glowing along its length. "I have to admit, I did not expect you two to force me to bring these out," he commented before swinging one of his colossal arms forward, forcing the pair of genin to jump out of the way lest they be crushed by the large stone fist crashing down where they had been standing on. The earth trembled and Naruto saw how the impact had been so strong that the stone fist crumbled into rubble. Unfortunately, to the spiky-haired teen's dismay, the limb immediately reformed itself like nothing had happened. Giving himself a few seconds to think about the situation, the Sharingan user turned to his friend. "I'll keep him focused on me and you move in as soon as you get an opening," the boy stated, receiving a nod of approval from the taijutsu user. Immediately, Naruto charged at the bandaged man as he summoned Susanoo's ribcage and arms to counter the older ninja's rock appendages. Skeletal chakra met rock once again as Naruto and Gariki traded blows via proxy. The blonde directed his avatar's right fist at his opponent's head, but it was blocked by one of the bald man's rock arm. The boy then had to bring Susanoo's left arm up to catch the rock ninja's own attack. Seeing a chance, Naruto quickly willed the chakra construct's right hand to grab Jiriki's free arm before the IWA shinobi could pull it back. With both of the older man's stone arms captured, the Sharingan user simply had to wait for Lee to make his move. On cue, a green blur appeared behind Gariki. "Konoha Senpu!" Lee exclaimed as he readied his spinning kick. As expected, Gariki murmured as a smirk appeared on his face. Suddenly, several of the boulders that made up the rock arms shot out towards the back, catching the black-haired genin by surprise in an onslaught of flying grapple. "Lee!" Naruto screamed as his teammate was flung backwards by the barrage of rocks that hit him. The smirk on the IWA ninja's face widened. "Hey, brat! Don't lose focus in what you're doing," the man pointed out as he freed his rock arms from the distracted blonde's grip, and then delivered a powerful punch at the chakra avatar's ribcage. In his distracted state, Naruto had lost some of Susanoo's stability, and the potent strike not only sent the Jinchuriki flying back, but also shattered the chakra construct altogether. It took the blonde all of his efforts to land on his feet, But the hard work paid off because there was already a second blow coming towards him, and the spiky-haired boy managed to jump out of the way. Gariki continued his offensive, sending punch after punch and pushing the younger ninja further back. Not wanting to lose any more ground, Naruto swiftly summoned a pair of shadow clones in front of him to block the incoming punch, and uses their back to jump high to the air before they disappeared. While airborne, the blonde gathered chakra in his right hand and hurriedly formed a Rasengan, thrusting it forward as his upwards momentum faded and he started to return to the ground. More than happy to meet the challenge, the IWA Nin directed one of his punches upwards, straight into the blonde's attack. A giant explosion went off in the forest as Naruto was thrown back like a ragdoll and Gariki's rock arm was shattered by the force of the collision. Unfortunately, just like last time, the bandaged man's artificial limp immediately reformed and wasted no time before crashing down onto the fallen genin. From his helpless position on the ground, all that the spiky-haired teen could do was wait as a giant stone palm was about to squash him. But at the last moment the boy felt a hand grab his jacket and pull him out of harm's way. Looking to his side, the Uzumaki saw a bruised and exhausted Lee. "Nothing is working, Naruto-kun," the older genin commented. "Everything we throw at him has been useless since he can just get more boulders from the ground," he pointed out. The Jinchuriki had to agree. Gariki had essentially shrugged off all of their attacks, and looked no worse for wear than he did at the start of the battle. "We have to hit him with something so big that he can recover from it. But it has to be all in one fell swoop," the younger boy said. "Do you have a technique like that?" Lee asked as he looked at his friend. "One," Naruto responded but hesitated for a second before continuing. "But it requires a great deal of concentration, and it would take me some time before it's ready," he said. "Plus, I haven't fully mastered it yet." The Sharingan users thought, but decided to keep that part to himself. The Taijutsu user gave his teammate a strong nod. "Yosh! Then I will keep Gariki busy while you prepare your attack," he declared. Naruto gave the older boy a worried look. "Are you sure you want to do that, Lee?" he asked. "Because I'm not even certain if my jutsu will work." Smiling, Lee gave the blonde the thumbs up. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun, I have complete faith in you," he stated as a small twinkle accentuated his smile. "Just have a little faith in me," the young man added before turning around and charging at the rock Nin. Left behind, the spiky-haired teen took a deep breath to prepare himself. Closing his eyes for a second, Naruto summoned Susanoo, drawing forth as much of the construct as he could. Bones were covered by musculature, which was in turn covered by wood-like skin. Once Susanoo was ready and stable, the blonde started to gather chakra into his hand and formed another Rasengan, this one far more refined than the one he had created earlier. The genin willed the chakra avatar's right arm to move closer and put its large hand right in front of him, on which the young man placed the Rasengan. Once the Uzumaki made sure that the sphere of chakra was secure in Susanoo's palm, the boy took a deep breath. The easy part was over. Next, as Lee continued to dodge Gariki's attack, Naruto brought both of his hands close to the spinning sphere and started to pump wind chakra into the Rasengan. Flashback. Naruto and Kakashi stood in the middle of a training ground with over a dozen pieces of paper littered around their feet. Some of the papers seemed to be disintegrating, others seemed wet, more looked scorched, but by far most pieces of papers seemed cut up. "Well, that settles it. Your highest affinity is with wind chakra, though fire was a close second," Kakashi pointed out as he examined all the scraps of papers around him. "But it seems your body is vehemently against lightning release," he added. For his part, the blonde shrugged his shoulders. "I told you," he said. "After the Chunin exam I tried to copy the Chidori, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't generate the lightning chakra for it. I had to modify the jutsu and replace it with fire chakra," the genin informed his teacher. Kakashi gave a disappointing sigh. "Well, I guess we'll have to." "Really? A fire release?" he started to say, but did double take when his student's words registered. "You'll have to show me some time," he added under his breath. "But on the meantime, we should work on helping you hone in your wind chakra," he proposed, and so, the two Sharingan users did. For the next couple of weeks, Naruto spent his time cutting leaves and then cutting through waterfalls until he had completely mastered the usage of wind nature chakra. Thanks to the boy's Sharingan allowing him to regulate the chakra throughout his body, it made the process a piece of cake for the spiky-haired teen. However, when the silver-haired Jounin brought up the notion of combining the wind chakra with the Rasengan, they hit a bit of a snag. "Arg! It's impossible!" Naruto exclaimed as his legs gave out and he fell to the ground, his head feeling as if it was about to split open. This is just like when I was trying to use his right un. It just can't be done. I'm feeling like I'm being pulled in opposite directions. He complaining as he sat there on the ground. Kakashi watched his student passively. Yes. I remember Minato-sensei having a similar problem. He mentioned. It seems that adding nature transformation while shaping the Rasengan is impossible. If only we had an extra set of hands. The older Leaf Nin commented to himself. Immediately, Naruto's eyes widened in realization. Several minutes later, Kakashi stood on the training ground with a very surprised look on his face as he observed his blonde student. Naruto had summoned one of Susanu's arms and placed the Rasengan in its hand. Now the boy was well on his way of adding wind nature chakra into the spherical jutsu. Well, you are about to succeed on something even your father failed to accomplish. The silver-haired man commented in amazement as he watched little blades appear along the horizontal diameter of the boy's chakra sphere. A proud smile appeared in Naruto's face. It's not that hard once you. Whatever the Jinchuriki was going to say was drowned out by an abrupt screeching sound. Suddenly, the Rasengan started to become unstable, and before the spiky-haired teen could do anything to prevent it, the sphere exploded, violently sending its creator flying back. Kakashi immediately rushed to his student's side. Naruto! Are you alright? He asked as he knelt down next to the boy. The explosion had torn the boy's cloths to shreds and his right arm lay numbly to the side. Arg! It feels as if an exploding tag went off next to my shoulder. The spiky-haired boy screamed as he clutched his right side. And I can't feel my right arm at all. He added through the pain. The Jounin surveyed the genin's injuries. This is the nature of wind chakra. He explained. It severely damaged your chakra circulatory system, cutting the flow of chakra to your arm at the shoulder. Come on, we better get you checked out by a medic. Later the night, the two Sharingan users were in one of the rooms in the Konoha hospital. The spiky-haired boy's right shoulder was bandaged up and he was now having problems putting his new set of cloths over it. I can already hear Sakura chewing my ear off about this. The blonde lamely commented. Kakashi watched his student for a couple of seconds. I think we should shelf the futon Rasengan training. He suddenly stated. Naruto's face snapped towards his teacher. Why? I almost got it! The boy exclaimed. A sigh escaped the older ninja. Naruto, look what happened when you simply added wind chakra to the Rasengan. A bit more and the damage could have been permanent. You could have lost full circulation to your main arm. The man tried to reason with his student. I don't care. The Uzumaki shot back. You said it yourself. This is something even my dad failed to do. I want to. I need to see this through, he said as he looked straight at his teacher. The look of sheer determination in the spiky-haired teen's eyes utterly defeated the Jounin. Very well. But two conditions. The silver-haired man said. First, before we continue working on this, we are going to focus on how to keep you safe. And second, promise me that you are not going to use this jutsu on the field until you have completely mastered it. The man stated. End flashback. Naruto was panting. The strain of keeping the Rasengan stable while adding the wind chakra was taking a huge toll on him. I'm sorry, Kakashi-sensei. But I need this technique's power right now. He muttered as the sphere stared to make a screeching sound. The boy smiled as the Rasengan started to grow and the blades around it stretched exponentially, making the whole thing look like a giant, spinning shuriken. Looking up, the blonde could see Lee struggling to continue to dodge the IWA shinobi's attack. The taijutsu user was completely in the defensive by now, jumping all over the place, even on some of the floating rocks themselves, in order to evade them and Gariki's stone arms. He wasn't going to last much longer. The blonde took a deep breath and glanced down at the jutsu screeching in Susanu's hand. It's ready. I hope. He thought to himself before taking a step forward. This is my strongest technique right now. This has to work. The avatar felt heavy, but the boy endured through it. Lee! It's ready! The young man called out. The black-haired genin landed away from the rock Nin and looked at his teammates. Lee was surprised at seeing the younger boy's avatar carrying a large, weirdly shaped Rasengan, though the jutsu looked almost proportional in the huge chakra construct's hand. Not questioning his teammate, the older Leaf Nin quickly jumped out of the way. Oh? So this is what you were up to? Gariki mocked the spiky-haired boy as he turned his attention to him. Very well, let's test this little technique of yours. He challenged. Gritting his teeth, Naruto started to move forward, picking up speed little by little, and always mindful of his jutsu's stability. Once he reached running speed, the young man and his avatar jumped into the air. Futon, raise and shuriken! Naruto called out as he willed Susanoo to thrust the hand that carried the wind jutsu forward. Full of confidence, Gariki drove his rock-covered first straight into the incoming chakra mass. The moment his punch touched the Leaf Ninja's technique, the bandaged man realized his mistake. Instead of crumbling like it always did, the boulders that formed his arms simply disintegrated into a dust far too fine for him to reform it back together. Terror filled the older man's eyes as the Futon Jutsu continued its warpath undeterred by his punch and hit former Rock Nin square in the chest. Lee watched from a safe distance as his teammate, the Avatar, and Rock Nin disappeared in a colossal chakra explosion. The taijutsu user had to brace himself in order not to get blown away by the shockwaves coming off Blonde's technique. Looking at the dome of chakra that had formed where his friend had been, Lee was amazed by the attack that Naruto had created, but he could not help but feel worried for the spiky-haired boy's safety. In the massive chakra, Naruto was safe inside Susanoo, but he could see that the wind release was ripping the chakra construct apart. Nevertheless, the blonde could not let up and willed his avatar to continue to press through. Eventually, the chakra mass gave out a large, final explosion and the spiky-haired boy was expelled out with a tremendous force. All that was left of Susanoo by then was its ribcage, and even that was severely damaged. However, as Naruto crashed down onto the ground, he virtually unharmed. Naruto-kun! Are you okay? Lee called out as he rushed towards his friend. Panting in exhaustion, the blonde struggled to his feet. Yeah. I'm just winded, he barely managed to say as he accepted the taijutsu user's help to stand up. Looking at the huge cloud of dust that his attack had left behind, the spiky-haired teen smiled. Well, I would say that was a success, he commented. Lee returned the smile and nodded. Yosh! That was a very youthful display, he commented and gave his teammate another thumbs up. Still trying to catch his breath, Naruto straightened up. Come on, he mentioned a teammate. The Sharingan users pointed out. We have to go check on the others, the boy said before turning around. Lee following right behind him. Chapter 35, Sealed Fate. Still trying to catch his breath, Naruto straightened up. Come on, he mentioned a teammate. The Sharingan users pointed out. We have to go check on the others, the boy said before turning around. Lee following right behind him. The two genin only managed to take a couple of steps when a rumbling sound coming from the cloud of dust caught their attention. Looking back, the boys saw several boulders suddenly explode from the ground and they barely had time to jump out of the way to dodge the incoming debris. Damn you! Gariki's grunting voice was heard as the dust started to dissipate. The bandages around the missing nin's body were ragged and disheveled, while most of his right arm was gone and blood dripped from what was left of it, but his eyes held an intense fury directed at the Leaf Ninjas. Lee was visibly taken back. How did he survive a jutsu like that? The taijutsu user asked in bewilderment. For his part, Naruto was rendered speechless. He had hit the former Iwa Nin with his strongest technique, and he had failed to take him out. Using some of his bandages, Gariki cut off the blood circulating to his stump, stopping the bleed. To think that a pair of brats would force me to use the second Tsuchikage Bunretsu no Justu, he growled. Half of my chakra is now gone forever. The man continued as he started to slowly move towards the two genin. I couldn't even activate the technique in time to save my right arm, he cursed. The blonde looked at his friend. Lee, do you have any idea what he's talking about? He asked. I might, the older genin said after a few seconds of pondering. I remember a lecture from the academy about how one of the old Kages was developing a technique to duplicate himself as a way to escape very dangerous situations. The taijutsu user explained, but the Kage died in battle before he could solve one major flaw in the technique, so it was labeled as an incomplete jutsu. I think this might have been it. By now, Gariki was heaving in anger. With my chakra and my arm gone, I'm barely half of what I used to be. Nothing more than a shell, he muttered to himself as he took another step towards the two boys. I'm done. They will not abide someone broken like me. All I have left is... His eyes glared at the pair responsible for his situation. Make sure I take you down to hell with me. The former Iwa Shinobi roared as chakra was forced out of his body. At their opponent's declaration, the Leaf Genins readied their stance. Stay on your toes, Lee. It seems he finally snapped, Naruto commended. The black-haired nodded in agreement. Yosh! Don't worry, Naruto-kun, there's nothing that he can throw at me that I The young man stopped in mid-sentence as something about the bandaged man caught his attention. Lee's eyes winded as realization dawned upon him. Hashiman Tanku. Daroku came on. Kai! Gariki exclaimed right before a huge explosion of chakra erupted from his body. Naruto had to put his arm up to prevent his face from being buffeted by the dust being pushed by the missing nin. 8 gates? The blonde questioned as he glancing at his friend. Isn't that the technique you use? He asked. The blonde could not fully figure out what was the expression that the taijutsu user was showing. Lee's face was a mixture of fear, astonishment, and anger. The whole thing seemed very out of place with the older boy. Heaving under the strain of his technique, Gariki smirked as his skin turned a reddish-brown color, and some of the veins in his head became more pronounced. Speechless, aren't you? He goaded the younger ninjas. Using this technique in my state might kill me. But destroying you is the only thing that can alleviate my pride. Readying himself to jump back in the fray, Naruto was suddenly stopped when Lee took a step forward. You go back to check on the others, Naruto-kun. The black-haired teen said in a serious voice. I will be his opponent. Sapphire-colored eyes widened at those words. You can't be serious. The younger boy protested. This guy is completely unhinged. It's dangerous to fight an opponent like that on your own. Naruto pointed out, but then realized that his friend's body was shaking. By now, anger seemed to have won out over dominance for Lee's expression. He insults the technique that Guy-sensei taught me. I can't overlook this, the young man declared before bracing himself. Hashiman Tanku. Daisen Simon. Kai! Lee roared as chakra exploded around him. Lee! Think this through. The spiky-haired boy tried to reason with his teammate again. Last time you used 8 gates you almost ended your ninja career. Besides, you can only go up to the 5th gate, and this guy already opened the 6th. Turning to face the blonde, a smile finally returned to the older boy's face. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. The black-haired teen responded. He said that lost half of his chakra to survive your attack, so 3 gates should be enough to match his 6. Lee stated as his skin started to redden. Naruto gave his friend a skeptic look. Does it really work like that? He questioned. The smile on the taijutsu user's face widened cheekily. Not really, the boy admitted. But this is something I have to do. For someone like me who can't use either ninjutsu or genjutsu, the 8 gates represents all the effort I have made to get to where I am now, he said with a serious tone again. Seeing it being used in such a petty way boils my blood in a way not even the flames of youth can. The genin declared with a voice full of conviction. Sighing, the Sharingan user accepted defeat. Okay, Lee, you win this time. He relented. But you better not get yourself killed here or I will go the afterlife myself and drag you back just so I can beat the living hell out of you. He warned his teammate. Or better yet, I'll turn you over to Tenten and let her decide your punishment, the spiky-haired boy added before turning around. With another smile on his face, Lee gave his friend a quick glance. Don't worry, I promise, the older teen said as he gave his friend a thumbs up. Having let the pair of genin talked out, Gariki decided to finally speak up. Now, why do you think that I would let one of you simple walk? The man's sentence was cut short when the black-haired boy suddenly appeared right in front of him with his fist already flying towards the former IWA nin's face, forcing Gariki to block it with his remaining arm. The force of the blow was strong enough to push the missing nin back despite his block. Gariki gritted his teeth. That was stronger than I expected, he muttered to himself. Suddenly, the bandaged man's eyes saw the leaf nin throw a pair of strange objects at him. Upon further observation, he realized it was a set of ankle weights. Acting on instinct, the former IWA ninja jumped away from the weights. The impact that the exercise equipments caused when they touched the ground looked as if they had been a pair of explosive tags. Dynamic entry. Lee's voice was heard less than a second before a green blur shot out of the cloud of dust raised by the weights. The missing nin brought his arm up again to block the new attack, but was taken aback when the blur suddenly disappeared right in front of him. However, the bald man had no time to think about what his opponent was planning, since a powerful kick was connected with his back, violently sending him flying forward. Planting his hand on the ground in mid-flight, Gariki rectified his body and managed to land on his feet. Looking up, he saw the young shinobi already charging forward. I can't believe that he can keep up with only 3 gates, he complained as he was forced on the defensive, continuously dodging the taijutsu user's attack. Have I really sunk this low after using the bunretsu? Dane Nanakuman Kai! The older man roared as another explosion of chakra erupted from his body. At the same time, Lee's fist was traveling towards his opponent's face when suddenly it was caught by the bandaged man's hand. "That's quite enough," Gariki declared before hurling the genin's body away from him with so much force that the teen's body went through several trees. Ignoring the pain his body was in, Lee stood up and glared at his enemy for several seconds. "It's been a while since I used this. But this time is going to be different," the boy finally said as the veins in his head started to become more pronounced. "Daigo Taman Kai!" he shouted as chakra erupted all round him and his body was covered with a green aura. Gariki growled. "Fifth, huh?" he muttered. "Let's put it to the test," the man shouted before punching the ground, causing everything in front of him crumble. Swiftly, Lee jumped into the air. "Konoha Otoshi!" the young man shouted as he brought the heel of his foot down at blurring speed. This time, it was the IWA nin's turn to jump away right before the ground he had been standing on exploded when the younger ninja's foot came down. The two Hashiman users started to trade blows back and forth. In his weakened state, the bandaged man found himself slowly losing ground despite having opened more gates than his opponent. It was clear to the man that, despite his young age, the Leaf Genin Taijutsu was far more refined, and now that Gariki could not physically use ninjutsu, he was in a crippling disadvantage. As the younger shinobi continued his assault, one of his fists broke through his opponent's defenses and connected with the man's chin, sending him flying back. Not wasting any time, Lee immediately closed the distance between them. "Konoha de Zenpu!" he shouted as he delivered several spinning kicks at the former rock nin who was helpless at the teen's speed and strength. Konoha Otoshi, the black-haired boy ended his combo by delivering a falling kick on his opponent, sending him crashing down into the ground with tremendous force. "Garg!" Gariki cried out as his gates he opened increased the amount of pain his body felt. Struggling back to his feet, the man sent a murderous glare at his young opponent. "Damn you!" he cursed through gritted teeth. By now, almost all the bandages on the missing nin's body had become loose. To be forced to use this by someone like you. I guess I have nothing left to lose either way, he exclaimed as his body started to emanate a lot of pressure, and the ground cracked under his feet. Lee watched as the veins in his opponent's head became even more pounced. The genin's eyes narrowed as he saw white steam come off the man's body. "Hashiman Tanku! Daihachi Shimon Kai!" the IWA ninja exclaimed as the ground exploded all around him. Within an instant, he closed the gap between himself and the Leaf Genin, driving a powerful punch at the boy's stomach. As the Taijutsu user was thrown back, Gariki quickly sped past him and delivered a spinning kick that hurled the boy at another direction. With his enhanced speed, the bandaged man was able to rapidly overpower the young ninja, throwing the teen around the forest like a ragdoll. It took all of his self-control for Lee not to scream in pain as his body collided with a boulder, crushing it into pebbles. The boy had to use all his resolve as he forced his body to stand back up. Gariki landed just a few feet from the battered teen. "How about we finish this? I still have to catch up with your friend and pay him back," he said with a smirk. Lee's eyes hardened. "I'm not done yet," he responded. "I still have one trick left," the boy added. One of the missing nin's eyebrow rose in curiosity. "You do? What is it?" he inquired. "Are you resolute enough to open the 8th gate as well?" Before answering, the black-haired kid started to undo the bandages around his right arm. "No. I can only open up to the 5th gate. But I don't need any more to beat you," he replied. "This is something else." A scoff escaped the former rock nin. "There is nothing that can beat a person that has opened all 8 gates," he exclaimed. Looking at the white steam on his opponent's body, Lee continued unraveling the bandages. "You said that you were forced to use Hashiman as a way to salvage your pride after being overpowered by Naruto and I," the genin started to say. "Well, I traded mine in order to have the strength to protect the people I care about when the time came," he stated before removing a long stream of bandages and revealing a seal with the word wind engraved in his forearm. Gariki looked at the seal in confusion. "What is that?" he asked as he saw the symbol start to glow. The air started to spiral around the Leaf Ninja. "Tengaku no Genso Tai, Kaze no Fuin," Lee roared right before disappearing from Gariki's view. Flashback. "No! I don't want it!" Lee yelled from his bed in the Konoha hospital as a stricken guy and a serious Tsunade looked on. They were supposed to start preparations for the young man's surgery, but at the last moment, the boy's teacher had dropped a bombshell on the genin's lap. "Lee, you have to understand," the taijutsu master tried to explain. "I understand just fine. You are telling me that I have to throw away everything I believe in?" the black-haired boy shouted back. It pained Lee to talk to his teacher in such a manner, but the feelings of betrayal and anger that had surfaced were numbing his heart to everything else. Tsunade took a step forward. We are not asking you to do any such thing, Lee. The new Hokage intervened. I have read the reports from the Chunin exam. You have already proven that you can become an extraordinary shinobi. This will only help you achieve your full potential, she stated. Tearful eyes looked at the village leader. I've trained day in and day out all this time so that I can prove that I can make it with taijutsu alone. But this is something else, he cried out. If I accept this, I will be turning my back to all the hard work I did in the past. While waiting for the nurse staff to come and fetch him for surgery, Lee had noticed that there was something odd with Gai-sensei, as the usually boisterous Jounin was simply sitting quietly by his bedside. After much probing, the genin had managed to get his teacher to reveal the cause for his discomfort. The Godame had agreed to perform Lee's surgery only under the condition that a special set of seals will be placed on the black-haired boy. The Tengaku no Gensotai seals. Once activated, the seals would enhance the wearer's physical attributes in different manners by manipulating the body and its surroundings. They were supposed to complement the user's taijutsu and make it far more versatile, but as far as the genin was concerned, they were nothing more than a shameless cheat. I've trained all this time to be a taijutsu user, and that's what I will always be. I don't need some old fuinjutsu technique to help cover what other people think I lack, the genin said stubbornly. I will make it through hard work alone. I don't need a handout. A sigh escaped the blonde woman as Guy moved to his student's side. Then don't do it for you, the Jounin said with a very serious expression on his face. I've told you the story of the genin who sacrificed his life to use the only technique he knew in order to save that which he cared about, right? He waited until his student nodded. Well, I don't want that story to repeat itself, the man stated. I taught you the 8 gates and I will never regret it, but I know you, Lee, and I know that once you master it, you will not hesitate to use that power if it means protecting something or someone important to you. Most of the anger in the black-haired boy seemed to dissipate as his gaze dropped down to look at his hands on his lap. Kneeling next to his student, Guy grabbed one of the boy's hands. All I want is for you to have an option. Something that you can use to protect Niji, or Tenten, or Sakura if the time ever comes. As he spoke, the taijutsu master's tone softened. And many years from now, I want to look up in pride and see you smiling and happy, living the life of a youthful shinobi who has no regrets, he added with a smile. Lee looked up at his teacher, more tears threatening to run down his face. Guy-sensei, the smile in the Jounin's face widened. Besides, who said anything about handouts? The Tengaku no Gensotai seals are the real deal and they require a lot of effort, so simply activate them, let alone master. I'm looking forward to training you until you can fully use them all, he stated as his voice started to recover some of his trademark energy. Mastering the seals is the best test for your youthfulness that we could have ever asked for, the man declared. The floodgates in Lee's eyes had broken down, and his tears were streaming freely down his cheeks. Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei, Lee. Tsunade stood back and watched with a mixture of astonishment and curiosity, with just the tiniest bit of horror sprinkled in, as the pair of taijutsu users hugged each other. The sight seemed to generate a strange glow of light seemingly out of nowhere. Behind the Hokage, a group of nurses that gathered to see what was going on. Arg, they're doing it again, one of the nurses complained. This happens at least 3 times per week, another one commented. Guy-sensei, Lee, and flashback. Gariki only had time to look to the sides when suddenly a green blur sped past him. The former IWA Nin was only able to barely dodge it thanks to the open gates heightening his reflexes. However, he was not quick enough when the blur made a second round, hitting him in the shoulder with the force of a battering ram. Where the hell are you? The man exclaimed as he looked around the forest. Every so often, a green streak could be seen among the trees. It would circle around the bandaged man a bit, and suddenly strike at lightning speed like a cobra. It was only thanks to all the gates that he had opened that Gariki had managed to dodge most of his opponent's attacks. However, more than a handful of them had hit him, and the Hashiman was many things but defensive was not one of them. At the speed in which the leaf ninja was hitting him, each punch felt as an exploding tag had gone off right in front of him. I can't let this continue, Gariki muttered to himself. The missing Nin waited until he saw the green blur hurl itself towards him before the older shinobi punched the ground with great force. Immediately, the earth around the missing Nin crumbled, but instead of being caught in the upheaval, the blur changed directions mid-flight, surprising Gariki, who received a punch on his face for his distraction, which sent him stumbling back. The Tengaku no Genso Tai seals can alter my body, or its surroundings. Lee started to explain, finally stopping as the older man pushed himself off the ground. The wind seal in particular manipulates the air currents around me, making air resistance almost non-existent, and letting me move faster, he said as he lifted his right forearm where the word wind was glowing. Also, if I need it, it can create walls of wind for me to change directions mid-air, as you just witnessed. Wiping the stream of blood that had started to run down his mouth, Gariki stood back up. Damn you! You were holding back all this time. He growled as he leered at the young man. Lee met his opponent's glare with one of his own. You use the 8 gates like a small child throwing a tantrum. The genin started talking again. But to me these seals represent my wish to keep my friends safe. And they mean more to me than any foolish pride, the taijutsu user exclaimed as he took a fighting stance. Now let me show you the other seal I have unlocked, he said before disappearing from view again. Gariki didn't have time to react before the black-haired teen appeared right in front of him, a fist already poised to attack. Tsuchi no Fuin! Lee shouted right as the wind seal stopped glowing and the bandages around his right arm unraveled further, revealing the symbol for Earth right before it started to shine. The leaf genin drove his punch into his opponent's gut with such strength that the ground around them crumbled as the older man was hurled back, flying through tree after tree like they were not even there. Once the missing nin crashed down, the Konoha ninja moved forward until they stood within earshot of the older man. The Earth seal is simpler to understand. It acts upon my body, making my skin and muscle tougher and increasing my physical strength, he explained. Coughing up blood after the devastating blow, the former rock nin could barely get back on his feet. You bastard! I'm going to kill you! He screamed. Even if it's the last thing I do. In a blind rage, the bandaged man charged at the younger ninja. Immediately, Lee dashed to meet his enemy. However, the fight that ensued was an extremely one-sided one. In his enraged state, Gariki's attacks were wild and ineffective, and Lee quickly gained the upper hand as he switched back and forth between the wind and earth seals. Soon, the older ninja was left reeling back from another earth seal-powered punch to his stomach. The man tried to reassume his attack, but his leg finally gave up on him, and he fell to his knees. Why? Why are you stronger than me? He screamed in frustration. I opened all 8 gates. I should have the power of a god, the man stated. Nothing is supposed to beat it. Lee watched his opponent for a couple of seconds. You are right, he finally said. Nothing can beat a fully released Hashiman. With it, even a genin can stand up to a group of legendary ninjas, the boy stated with a serious tone. But you did not open all of the 8 gates. Gariki's eyes immediately winded. What? The young man remained unfazed by the man's outburst. For starters, had you opened all of them, I would not have been able to overpower you, even with the seals, he stated. But if you want more proof, just look at yourself. You are missing the red mist, the taijutsu user said. The older shinobi was taken aback, and as he looked around he confirmed that the streams of steam that were coming off his body were all white. I don't know if you knew this, but opening the 8th gate causes the user's own blood to evaporate, enveloping that person in a red mist, Lee informed. In fact, opening the 7th gate will generate a blue mist. I know, I've seen it. All of this leads me to believe that you never actually made it past the 6th gate. Shock had completely overwhelmed the former rock nin. What? I. He could not form a coherent sentence. Realizing that his opponent's conviction had crumbled, Lee decided to put an end to the fight once and for all. Activating the wind seal, the boy charged forward. Gariki seemingly managed to snap out of it at the last second and thrust his fist forward. However, the younger ninja jumped into the air before it could connect. Once he was high up in the air, Lee used the wind seal to create an air wall to propel himself back down. Konoha Ryusei! The boy roared as he readied his punch and created a couple more walls to boost his speed. At the very last moment, as he was about to crash into the former IWA nin, Lee drove his punch fist forward and the seal in the genin's arm changed from wind to rock. The huge impact sent tremors throughout the forest and raised a cloud of rubble and dust that stood high above the trees. From the debris, Lee limped away from the dust and into clear air. The young man's body ached all over as the backlash from opening the 5th gate washed over him. Heaving and trying to stay on his feet, the young man looked over his shoulder. You were the first opponent that I ever hated, the boy stated, though he knew there was no one left to hear him. And I want you to know that I am sorry for that, he said as he looked down at his right arm. Despite everything, the sight of the Tengaku seals sent a wave of sadness and disappointment over the taijutsu user. As Lee started his way back towards the movie set, the young man tried his best to ignore those feelings. Hiding behind a tree, Cheyenne stood there as her body trembled uncontrollably and her throat dried out, preventing her from making any sound as she watched the scene in front of her. Ha! Hard! Naruto heaved in pain as he fell to his knees and clutched his head tightly. Come on, Naruto-san. This cannot be the best you can do. A black-haired man with a ponytail and a narrow nose said as a smile appeared on his face. There are a lot of people that are expecting great things from you. I would be extremely disappointed if this was all that there was to your abilities. He added, managing to almost sound jovial. The blonde genin tried to compose himself, but his entire body was in pain. His feet felt as if they were standing on needles, his stomach as if something was wrapping around it, and his hand felt as if they were on fire. But by far the most pain was in his head. The Jinchuriki could feel it pulsating, as if it were going to explode at any moment, and his eyes. Cheyenne tried to say something, she tried to call out to the boy hurting in front of her, but nothing came out. No. This is wrong. This is not like it was in my vision, the priestess thought as she saw blood start to stream down Naruto's eyes. Chapter 36. A simple world is worthless. Sighing, the Sharingan user accepted defeat. Okay, Lee, you win this time. He relented. But you better not get yourself killed here or I will go the afterlife myself and drag you back just so I can beat the living hell out of you. He warned his teammate. Or better yet, I'll turn you over to Tenten and let her decide your punishment, the spiky-haired boy added before turning around. With another smile on his face, Lee gave his friend a quick glance. Don't worry, I promise, the older teen said as he gave his friend a thumbs up. Naruto started running back towards the movie set as Lee and the former IWA shinobi resumed the fight. It took every last bit of the blonde's self-control to ignore the sounds of battle coming from behind him and keep his focus in the path ahead. I'm serious, Lee. You better win, the Sharingan user thought as he ran through the trees. Eventually, the sounds of Lee's fight faded out, but unfortunately they were soon replaced by new sounds of struggle. Realizing that there was a battle going on back in the movie set, Naruto sped up his pace. Yuki had gotten pretty far when she originally ran off, and the fight with Gariki had taken the Leaf Genin even further away than he had originally realized. As he approached his destination, cold sweat started to run down the back of the blonde's neck. The fight is over, he said to himself after his surroundings had gone silent. The young man gritted his teeth and prepared himself for what could be waiting for him just beyond the tree line. Destruction. That was the simplest way to describe the state of the movie set Naruto had returned to. Broken sets, twisted steel pipes, smoking mountains of rubble. It was hard for the blonde to tell what had been caused by the original explosion and what had been from the fight he had heard. Eventually, the Genin's sapphire eyes found the lifeless body of an impossibly fat man lying inside a perfectly round crater and surrounded by over dozens of kunai and shuriken, clear indication that he had been defeated by Niji and Tenten. I told him to be careful, but he refused to listen, a voice suddenly said from behind the leaf ninja. Immediately, the spiky-haired boy wiped around towards the source of the voice, a kunai ready in his hand. A young man with black hair tied up in a ponytail walked calmly from the edge of the movie set. I tried to warn Genin that he had never faced a gentle fist user before, but I guess he, though all the fat on his body would protect him. If he had only heeded my words, he would not have died so pathetically. So sad. He was always very entertaining, the newcomer said in an almost amiable tone despite talking about a dead acquaintance. And from what I could hear from here, Gariki did not fare any better against you, Uzumaki-san. Naruto's eyes narrowed as they focused on the hidden mist headband with an X carved on it that hung from the man's shirt, and made note that, just like Gariki, this man knew his name as well. Who are you and where is everybody? The boy asked. Smiling, the man focused on the younger ninja. My name is Kikaku Honda. I guess you can think of me as Gariki's superior, he responded plainly. As for the movie crew, I do believe that the Aburame boy is leading them back to the hotel. However, unfortunately for the Hyuga and the Kunoichi, the moment they defeated Jantan, my associates descended upon them. The two of them put up an impressive fight, but they were eventually overpowered. The man commented. What? Naruto exclaimed, baring his fangs as the Sora Sharingan manifested itself on the boy's eyes. Immediately, Honda brought his hands up. Do not be so alarmed, he said. I'm not entirely sure why, but my employers decided to capture them instead of outright killing them, so you should be glad about that. the man casually added. The blonde tried to rein in his new fury. What exactly are you guys after? The boy needed to keep the man talking to find out what he was actually dealing with. The former Kiri ninja had no problems answering. My comrades and I were hired to secure the capture for Fujike's Yuki, he said. I have to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised by how much trouble you kids gave us. It has been quite entertaining, the older man said as he smiled once more. Narrowing his eyes at the man's words, Naruto gripped his kunai tighter. I'm not letting you lay a single finger of Yuki, the Jinchuriki stated. Honda's smile took on an almost feral look. But Uzumaki-san, I have already captured her, the man revealed as he reached into his inside pocket. She put up a good fight too, but, at the end, she was unable to stop me, he commented as he brought out the mangled remains of a familiar leaf headband. The very next instant, Honda saw a giant, chakra fist coming down on him. Gracefully, the older shinobi jumped out of harm's way. You bastard! Naruto roared. What have you done to Sakura? The boy demanded to know as Susanoo continued to form around him. Once again, the black-haired man brought one hand up. Please calm down. Like I said, my associates have decided to capture your comrades for reason only known to them, the man explained. You still have a chance to save the pink-haired Kunoichi and the other two, he said. That is, provided you can get past me, the former mist ninja added with another smile. What do you mean? The spiky-haired teen questioned, refraining himself from lunging at his opponent again. The man's smile widened. With the capture of Fujike's Yuki, my responsibilities with my employer have been taken care of. As far as I am concerned, I am free to do whatever I want, Honda informed as he, for the first time since he walked into the movie set, took a fighting stance. With Susanoo blazing around him, Naruto prepared himself. And why do you want to fight me? He asked. You are an oddity, Uzumaki-san, one of the few genuine ones left in this world, Honda responded. I want you to entertain me for a little while, he added before swiftly throwing a couple of shuriken at the young ninja. Charging forward, Naruto let the incoming projectiles bounce harmlessly off the chakra avatar around his body and instead directed another colossal punch towards his opponent. Once more, the mist nin simply jumped back to safety and let the construct's fist impact the ground. Instead of the chakra avatar, over half a dozen blondes shot out of the cloud of dust raised by the attack's impact. A knowing smirk appeared on Honda's expression as he dodged the incoming attacks from the clones, before delivering a spinning kick and catching the real Naruto on the chest. The Uzumaki was pushed back but managed to stay on his feet. However, before he could reassume his assault, the older shinobi had already finished a set of hand seals. Suetun, Miserapa, he called out before jumping backwards and shooting a torrential stream of water out of his mouth which caught all the shadow clones before they had a chance to evade and forced them to disappear. Sharingan eyes immediately focused on the black-haired man, but unfortunately, before Naruto could bring out the Amaterasu flames, the stream of water suddenly strengthened and shot towards the Jinchuriki's direction, forcing him to abandon the attack and jump away. Now that's more like it, Honda suddenly started to say as the younger ninja landed back on the ground. That's the pattern I've come to expect from you, he commented. Naruto narrowed his eyes at his opponent's words. What are you talking about? Another smile appeared on Honda's face. I've studied you. Do you have any idea how many times you start your attacks with a team of shadow clones? He asked. And you always join them, you never stay behind. Then, if that approach fails, you tend to follow with a long-range attack, usually a fire release, the man pointed out as if he were giving a lesson at the academy. For a second, Naruto felt as if he was fighting Shikamaru or perhaps Kakashi. You see, this is my quirk, Honda continued talking. I study and analyzed everyone around, all of my targets, and any body of note in the ninja world today, he revealed. Uchiha Itachi, Yujito ni, Kitsuchi, Chio, Terumi-me. I know how all of the greats fight, even if I cannot beat them all yet, the black-haired man said as he opened his arms to show the grandeur of his words and his voice become more and more excited. And you know what that has made me, Uzumaki-san? Suddenly, the Sharingan user noted that the missing nin's smile took a sour look. Bored. Honda finished his statement. All the energy that his words had been building up had abruptly disappeared. There are no more wonders in this world. Gone are the monsters like Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama. Gone are the gods like the Sage of Six Paths. I curse the fact that I was born in such a mundane time when even our best ninjas can be measured and predicted to the point they can be broken down into statistics and pattern, the man ranted. But you, Uzumaki-san, have the potential to shatter this overwhelming dullness, and that's what I will have you show me, he stated before swiftly forming hand seals. Daibakufu no Jutsu, a powerful torrent of water spewed out of the older ninja's mouth, forming a vortex that charged forwards towards the blonde, steamrolling everything on its path. Quickly, Naruto jumped into the air to dodge the incoming deluge and started on a set of hand seals of his own. Suigaden! He called out before the water that had been left behind by Honda's techniques suddenly sprung to life, forming a pair of piercing water twisters that shot towards the older man. Honda dodged the blonde's attack by jumping away, but the moment he landed back on the ground, the younger ninja was right in front of him finishing a new set of seals. Gokakyu no Jutsu! Naruto shouted before breathing a colossal fireball at his opponent. Daibakufu no Jutsu! Honda responded by spewing another cascade of water. The fire and water techniques collided with each other in a violent explosion of steam that covered the entire movie set. Naruto looked around trying to see anything through the thick curtain of steam. My, that was careless of you, Uzumaki-san. The missing ninja's voice seemed to come from every direction. Don't you know that a Kiri shinobi can use steam just as if it were mist? He questioned as his voice echoed unnaturally. Suddenly, everything went completely quiet, even the ambient sounds of the woods had gone deadly silent. The Sora Sharingan continued to search through the steam. Eventually, the genin's eye caught sight of a shade in his peripheral vision. Quickly turning to face towards it, Naruto saw an object cutting through the steam as it flew towards him, and he immediately sent chakra to his eyes. Amaterasu. Immediately, the projectile was covered in black flames. It was at that moment that Naruto realized that the attacking object had been a kunai with a tag tied to it, and when the dark flames reached it, the tag detonated into a potent, white-hot flash so strong that it felt like it would burn his eyes away. In the middle of the destroyed movie set, the younger ninja screamed. By now Cheyenne could barely breathe as she ran through the woods. However, the desperation and dread she felt kept the young woman from stopping. Everything in the last hour had happened so fast. One moment she was making her way back to the movie set alongside Fujike's Yuki and Sakura when suddenly another missing ninja showed up claiming to be there for the actress. The pink-haired girl told them to hide while she tried to fight the black-haired man, but it soon became clear that she was no match for him. It was at that point when Fujike's turned to Cheyenne and told her to run. The older girl announced her wish to turn herself into the enemy ninja in hopes that it would save the kunoichi that was trying to protect them and put an end to this chaotic situation they found themselves in as a whole. Cheyenne was not proud of herself for it, but she decided to follow through with the actress' plans and make a run for it by herself. As she left the older girl behind, the blonde kept reminding herself that she had not seen any visions for either Yuki's or Sakura's deaths, and maybe that meant that they will be fine after all. Eventually, the priestess found a hiding spot deep into the woods and she simply waited there, hoping that everything would be alright and that Toroho or Naruto would come for her soon. After several minutes of silence, the young girl's hopes for an end to the conflict were destroyed when she heard the sounds of fighting start again. The girl jumped when she suddenly heard an angry roar that she recognized to be Naruto's. Immediately, the demon country priestess decided that she could not longer just simply wait and hide anymore. So, arming herself with as much courage as she could muster, Cheyenne stood up and started her way back towards the movie set where the sounds of Naruto's fight seemed to be coming from. Cheyenne willed her body to continue running past exhaustion as the noises from the battle intensify, even when the entire forest was suddenly covered by a curtain of steam. All of a sudden, a violently bright flash went off just up ahead. Covering her eyes, the blonde jumped behind a tree as whatever generated the light also blew all the water vapor away. The girl felt as if something threatened to rip out her heart when she heard Naruto scream in anguish. When she opened her eyes, Cheyenne peeked behind the tree she had sheltered herself on and realized that she was already at the edge of the destroyed movie set, and, right in the middle of all the rubble and debris, were Naruto and the black-haired man. But the sight that greeted her filled the priestess with a new wave of overwhelming dread. Hiding behind the tree, Cheyenne stood there as her body trembled uncontrollably and her throat dried out, preventing her from making any sound as she watched the scene in front of her. Ha! Hard! Naruto heaved in pain as he fell to his knees and clutched his head tightly. Come on, Uzumaki-san. This cannot be the best you can do. A black-haired man with a ponytail and a narrow nose said as a smile appeared on his face. There are a lot of people that are expecting great things from you. I would be extremely disappointed if this was all that there was to your abilities. He added, managing to almost sound jovial. The blonde genin tried to compose himself, but his entire body was in pain. His feet felt as if they were standing on needles, his stomach as if something was wrapping around it, and his hand felt as if they were on fire. but by far the most pain was in his head. The Jinchuriki could feel it pulsating, as if it were going to explode at any moment, and his eyes. Cheyenne tried to say something, she tried to call out to the boy hurting in front of her, but nothing came out. No. This is wrong. This is not like it was in my vision, the priestess thought as she saw blood start to stream down Naruto's eyes. The young boy could not move, his body was paralyzed by the burning sensation he felt in his chakra pathway originating from his eyes, but the worst part was that he could not open his eyes at all. Even the smallest movement of the genin's eyelids sent a new wave of overwhelming pain coursing through his entire body. I take it that you never heard of the Shiketsumi explosive tags. The spiky-haired boy heard Honda's voice said. They are a relic now, but back during the Warring States days they were quite common in the battlefield. The tags release quite a potent flash of light when they come in contact with any kind of fire. The former Miss Nin explained. They were specifically created and used to cripple the Sharingan. Still on the ground, all that the helpless Jinchuriki could do was listen to the explanation for the pain his body was currently under. Honda walked casually towards the younger ninja. I kept one with me just in case I ever had to fight off Uchiha Itachi or Hade Kakashi. I never thought that I would get to use it today, he said as he stood over the injured genin. Before Naruto could react to anything, the boy felt a powerful kick connect with his shoulder and sent him flying back. It's quite disappointing, Uzumaki-san, the missing Nin stated. The spiky-haired boy struggled to get back on his feet and tried to discern where his opponent's voice was coming from. You walked right into my trap, Honda added. It was almost too easy. The man's voice seemed to come from a random direction every time, preventing the blonde from finding him. Suddenly, the genin felt the blade of a kunai slash at his back. Barely able to stifle a cry of pain, the younger ninja immediately spun his body around and swing his fist. Unfortunately, all that the punch did was swing at empty air. Immediately, the boy felt another kick connect, this time to the side of his ribs, which sent him tumbling down to the ground. You have to do much better than that, Uzumaki-san. Honda voice mocked as he continued to attack the blinded genin, each time from a different direction. Naruto knew that his opponent was toying with him as a punch drove into his gut, knocking the air out of him. Realizing he was out of options and that the former Miss Ninja was about to attack him again at any moment, the blonde quickly rolled up his right sleeve and used his thumb to smear some of his blood across the tattoo on it. Namikaze, Kuchios no Jutsu. The young man roared just before he was surrounded by electricity. Honda watched the sight in front of him in amusement as a chain with a blade at the head shot towards him. The older shinobi jumped safely out of the way. That's a smart move, Uzumaki-san. You might not be able to see, but Tenkai no Ryuga's chain can attack on its own. The man commented with approval. The spiky-haired boy straightened up as he held the lightning-covered spear defensively in his hand, while the chain coiled protectively around him. But, the former Kiri ninja continued. Is it fast enough? He wondered out loud as he hurled a pair of shuriken at the younger shinobi. Immediately, Ryuga's chain sprung to life and intercepted two incoming projectiles before flying straight at the black-haired man, forcing him to jump into the air to dodge the attack. Airborne, Honda shot several more kunai at his opponent which were immediately knocked off by Ryuga's chain. However, the mist ninja quickly sent a third wave of blades, closely followed by a fourth one. Despite the chain's quick movements, one of the kunai managed to pass through, flying right past the genin on the ground and leaving a cut on his cheek. You see? Honda asked. That spear is not going to be enough to defeat me, he said before charging in towards the younger ninja. Naruto gritted his teeth as he stood his ground. He knew that Ryuga's chain was trying its best to keep the black-haired man at bay, but it was not enough to keep up with the older man's quick movements. Still hiding behind the trees, Cheyenne watched as the leaf ninja struggled against the older shinobi. The priestess did not have to be a ninja herself to predict what was going to happen next. Despite the chain's incredible speed, it was already struggling to try to keep up with the black-haired man and, sure enough, it eventually overextended itself, leaving the missing Nin a clear path towards Naruto, which he immediately took. Cheyenne did not know what possessed her to do so, but as she watched the mist ninja rush towards the other blonde from the rear, the young girl stepped out from behind the trees and shouted at the top of her lungs. Naruto! You are not going to die here! The sudden outburst caught both ninjas by surprise. The genin turned his head to where the voice had come from while the older shinobi stopped dead on his tracks, having completely forgotten about the blonde girl that had been with Fujike's Yuki and the pink-haired Kunoichi. Naruto was the first one to recover from the surprise and took advantage of the fact that he finally knew where his opponent was standing. Turning around, the spiky-haired teen poured some of his chakra into Ryuga, which caused the weapon to start emitting electricity again. Shin no Yari has sha! The blonde roared before hurling the spear at the missing nin. Honda could do nothing as Ryuga pierced him dead center on the chest with so much force that it sent him flying across the movie set and impaled him to a tree at the edge of the clearing. It's over, Naruto stated as he grabbed onto the weapon's chain and commanded it to send a powerful volt of electricity into the downed opponent. Gyarg! Honda screamed as the electricity coursed through his body. Once he felt it was enough, Naruto stopped the attack and retrieved Ryuga. Cheyenne immediately rushed towards her fellow blonde. Naruto! Naruto! Are you okay? She asked as she ran. Your eyes. Are they? The spiky-haired boy turned his face towards the direction that the priestess' voice was coming from. It's all right. He lied. But what about you? Are you hurt? The young man asked as he reached out with his free hand. Cheyenne immediately took the ninja's hand. I'm fine. Yuki told me to run and hide. And I did. The girl confessed, her voice coming out small out of embarrassment and guilt. Good. The blinded boy stated. At least you're safe. Unbeknownst to Naruto, a healthy blush appeared on the priestess' face. Hee hee. Ha ha ha. A pained laughter was heard through the movie set. The two blondes immediately turned towards where the former Miss Shinobi was still impaled by Ryuga. Despite the man's current situation, the smile had returned to Honda's face. Before our fight, I calculated the outcome. Again and again, he started to say. And despite being extremely low, your chances of surviving never came out as zero. Uzumaki-san. His eyes glanced at the girl. But I could never predict that you would beat me this way. I cannot remember the last time I was taken by surprise. Like this, Naruto walked towards his wounded opponent as Cheyenne followed closely behind him. What are your plans with Yuki? Where did you take my friend? The Leaf Genin asked. I told you already. Uzumaki-san. My team and I. We're simply hired to capture Fujike's Yuki. I'm not privy to my employer's plan. The black-haired man responded. But I can tell you that our associates were ninjas from the hidden snow. He added. A growl escaped the Jinchuriki. That's not enough. The young man roared. Tell me why you took my friends. The smile in Honda's face never wavered. I'm sorry, Uzumaki-san. But that's all I know, he said, managing to sound almost casual. But let me make it up to you by telling you something else, the man said as he grabbed his own headband. We've been observing you, Uzumaki-san. You are more valuable to this world than you have ever realized. His grin widened at the look of confusion in the younger ninja's face. Do not fear the Red Dawn, because the White Knight watches over you, Honda stated. Cheyenne gasped in shock when the black-haired man's entire body suddenly turned into mud and then crumbled to ground, leaving the Leaf Ninja's spear stuck on the tree. He was a clone this entire time, Naruto bitterly said as he knelt down to examine the mud left behind. He did not need his eyesight to know what had happened. What the hell did he meant with all of that? He wondered out loud. The priestess looked at the other blonde. What do we do now? Naruto turned his face towards the young woman for a few seconds before standing up straight. It's simple, the blinded Genin stated. We go after those snow bastards who took Yuki and my friends.